What is up, everybody? I'm Sean.
And I'm Tom.
And
we're
the Block Bros.
Block Bros, yeah.
This is
Yeah.
Block Bros.
It
Yeah.
works.
You
There.
know, it happened.
Yeah.
So, Tom, what'd you do this week?
Been a pretty boring week, I've just been, mostly just watching anime, reading manga. Chainsaw Man just came out today for anime, which I've been looking so forward to. And the first episode was so good.
I forgot about that. Yeah, I'm going to be watching that probably later tonight. I totally spaced that was coming out today.
Yeah, I've been reading the manga for like forever, and the first episode's so great. Watch it. I've also been reading this new one like today. It's called Kiruru Kill Me. I think that's how you pronounce it, but it's like a dude who falls in love with an assassin. So
that sounds good. Okay, hell yeah.
Yeah, it's like a romance, comedy, action, everything you want out of a manga. But it's been pretty boring. Besides that, played some Frolf today. Saw a huge ass mushroom, which was cool. Like it was.
I saw the video of that. Yeah.
Yeah, it was like the size of like a log. It was just all over this ground, just one giant mushroom. So that was pretty dope, But yeah, been pretty crazy day, honestly, compared to the rest of my week. I've just been doing like everything, it seems. So
Nice.
Hell yeah. What about yourself, bro?
I had a weird week, as you know, and other people who are on the stream and stuff know. I quit / got fired from the job that I didn't like.
It's a mix.
Yeah, it was kind of like essentially it was an amicable split. Like they were just like, hey, and they said some stupid shit at me, and I was like, fuck you. And then they're just like, I think it's best if you leave. And I'm like, yeah, probably. So with that being said, I don't know what that means for me in the future, but right now I've been enjoying the fuck out of my week. Honestly, I got fired / quit like on Wednesday of last week, and honestly, I've been incredibly productive for like stream stuff and like making stuff and designing stuff and catching up on things and videos and stuff. So it's honestly been really refreshing and really nice. But yeah, I'm not sure what I'm gonna do, but I'm not really that worried, to be honest with you.
Right? Yeah. Like it's a nice thing about like, here in America. It's like, yeah, you can coast for a little bit, for that slight amount of time. There's a very finite, like I'll say, like before it's like the drop off of the America zone,
Well, I always have savings and stuff, so like I'm not really worried.
Yeah.
Like with my
and you're
current
good
savings,
with money. Like
yeah, I don't spend money on anything besides alcohol. So
yeah, this man can somehow make like $1,000 last like 3 months. It's fucking impressive. Like
yeah, and for just so everyone is aware, I live in my own place too. So like I'm like very good with money.
like yeah.
I just like I won't eat for like 2 days and be like I'm good. Let's just buy drinks instead. But no, I'll be okay. Right now my savings are good for a little bit, and then plus I'm starting that like school program in like the end of this month. So like honestly, I probably wouldn't even have time for a job, which is why I didn't mind that I acquired. That's with a Q. But yeah, so it's been a weird week. I've been having a good time though. But welcome back to another episode of your guys' favorite podcast, Block Bros. Today we are going to, I know it's our second episode of October, but we're gonna start getting spooky with it. And today we're gonna be talking about the spooky. It's a horror roguelike mystery horror. I said horror twice. Role playing game called World of Horror. It's all of those things. Ah. So I'll talk about what World of Horror is, guys. World of Horror is, like I said, a mystery horror role-playing game. It does feature some unique graphics. They're 1-bit pixel style art, so it's like I like to think of it like almost like the original like Game Boy Color games, if you remember those before they were like really good. Like they were just like that kind of art. The game was created by a Polish developer named I'm not Polish, so excuse me in advance. Pawet Kosminski, and he goes online. His name is Panstan. I don't know, something like that. it's PANSTASZ, and this game was also published by Wisebird Games. It was released to early access on February 20th, 2020, and this game still currently is in early access as far as we are aware.
Yeah, it hasn't moved out of early access, I don't think. I think it's one of those games that's like, hey, we're in early access for like 3 years, thus the video game world now.
Dude, yeah, I remember when like, okay, so this is just kind of a hot take, but I remember when like I bought one of the first early access games I ever bought was DayZ. And I think it's still in early access.
Yeah, that game is
like, I don't even know, like 10 years. Like it's been a crazy amount of time.
14, something like that.
Yeah, it was one of the first games I bought on PC, and it's still in early access. So I don't know why, but that has been, I don't know, that's not really a gripe because it allows developers to continuously work on their games, but it also is kind of a cop out for other developers to just never work on their game.
Right. I am not going to say that early access is, oh no, we ran out of money and we need a way to make money. But at the same time, if you need that budget, you need that budget, you know?
Like, I just wish that there was like it didn't have to be called like if you want to be a creator that continually works on your game, calling it early access, there should be something else for that. Like it should be called early access, because early access feels like it should eventually move out of it. But I feel like you know, in the past couple of years, we've definitely been stuck with a lot of game companies coming out with quote unquote early access games as an excuse to just come out with something that gets them money.
Yeah, like early access is like less than beta, you know, it's like, you know, down to like delta access. Like
well, I mean, like a game that I think, and this is a total tangent we're on, guys, right now, sorry, but a game that I think one of the best games that for early access, quote unquote, that I've ever experienced, that they actually are true to their word about it being early access, is Rust. Like they have a roadmap that they come out with like every quarter. They take a lot of community feedback and then they apply that to what they're developing. They ask the community what they want to see. If it's a good idea, they throw it in there, and if it's a bad idea, they put it on a list of bad ideas, which they also release.
Yeah.
So like that's how you do early access, and eventually it will be a full game. But they're just making the game the best they can be for the community that already plays it, and like that's what early access should be, in my mind, anyways.
Yeah, I definitely feel that too. And yeah, we did go off on a bit of a tangent there, but you know, once we get rolling, it's hard.
Do you want? All right, let's roll into the storyline.
Yeah.
Storyline.
Oh man.
The storyline.
Yeah. So like, it's pretty cool, like what this storyline is going for. And at first, it's like really vague because you don't really understand that. It's like, oh, it's just weird how it just throws you in. But basically, like it's right at the turn of like when technology is starting to come around. You know, it's like kind of set in that 80s kind of feel, I want to say, because it feels right at the beginning of internet phone kind of time. But basically, old gods are like reawakening too, and like there's a lot of creatures that are terrifying the small seaside town of Ishikawa. I am so bad at names, but it's in Japan. It's like a seaside town in Japan. But basically, the whole entire reality around this town has plunged itself into madness. Sometimes you can't tell what things are real, what things are fake. Do you know if it's the end of the world? Maybe. Who knows? You're just trying to basically figure out the mystery of all this shit going on, because nothing is going right in this town. Like, not a thing.
Definitely, yeah. It's and pretty much like you're tasked with like trying to figure out how to postpone like the inevitable. It feels like in the game,
Yeah.
and you take that role in the game itself. Yeah, just trying to help the town, figure out the mystery, and that's the essential storyline of the game. This game is if anything, this game is really confusing on your first playthrough.
Hmm.
But I like to think of it 100% as a trial by fire. Like you just like have no, it doesn't really explain anything. You just kind of have to figure it out. And I like those kinds of games. This one was a little bit more difficult than I imagined it would be, though.
Yeah, like the storyline is hard to describe because like there's a lot of random elements to the storyline, like all the cases are randomized per playthrough and all that kind of, stuff. But except for like your first one, which I think is like the scissor woman, the scissor woman, like that's like the base one before it starts randomizing things. But for one, I'm gonna tell you right now, you're gonna get the shit scared out of you in that one. Like,
Yeah, I without getting too into the content portion of this game, I think what this game does a really good job of is that it doesn't do like jump scares, which like you when you think of horror, like I was playing a horror game last night on stream called Amnesia Rebirth. There's a good amount of like jump
mhm,
scare, shocking content in that game. And this game, it's more like the setting is just incredibly unnerving. And when you do see things, which we'll get into the graphics in a minute, it's really grotesque. Like it's really unnervingly, it just bothers you. Like you look at like the uncanny valley effect. Like you look at something and it doesn't look human, and you're like, I don't like this.
yeah. And when this game does jump scare you, fuck. Like,
It's
you
scary.
just, yeah, it's scary. Like, but yeah, like basically, yeah, it's like this whole game though, it's really cool. I like the setting of it. It's got that nice retro kind of feel. I mean, it feels like the game. I know we haven't gotten to graphics, but it fits like the story because it, like that turn of the century feel. It looks like it's straight up printed on one of those old sheets of paper. The ones with the circles on the side, fax
Yeah,
machines,
yeah.
right? Yeah,
That's not
like
what I mean. That's what they're. Yeah, that's not the paper thing is called. But yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, they have like a specific name for those printers. I don't
yeah,
remember
yeah.
what it
But
is.
anyway, like that just ties into the whole feel of the story in this game. Weirdly enough, just like I don't know, it's crazy. Like I said, it's hard to explain with how many different directions the mysteries can take. But yeah, basically, like turn of the technology century, and old gods are taking over. That's the base premise of what you kind of need to understand, I guess. I think.
All right, let's
I'm
get
bad
started.
at this. I'm really bad at explaining this game.
Yeah, so basically, I'm
You
just to
go. You
yeah to
explain.
reiterate. To reiterate. Jesus. Essentially what Tom said, you're in a seaside town in Japan, gods are being reawakened all around you, and there's disgusting creatures running rampant in your city. You task yourself with figuring out why this is happening, and unraveling the mystery. Everything in the game is completely randomized, so there's a lot of different encounters, and they're all randomized. And yeah, essentially you're just trying to figure out the puzzles and the mysteries. There you go.
Yeah. That's
Awesome.
right.
Graphics and art.
Graphics and art.
All right, I'll throw it up on screen and you can talk about the art because that's your thing.
Yeah. God.
Hold on. It's all good. There we go. Sharing.
Right. So I can really appreciate this art style because like it's very different from what we've talked about. Like for one, I know now they updated that you can have 2-bit graphics instead of just 1-bit, so you actually get a bit of shading. But I actually prefer the 1-bit in this kind of like style because like it works, like I said, so well with the feeling that this game is going for. Like, I've never experienced like true like 1-bit graphics like this, I guess. Like, really, I just never really grew up in the era where like it was anything less than like 8-bit or colors or anything like that. But this game is completely black and white and just that 1-bit like aesthetic, like it's excessively blocky, but like it still reads like almost like that classic 80s manga feel, but like not. Like it's it's hard to describe because it's so unlike any other game we've played. But I mean, it's for just doing a black and white comic-esque 1-bit feel, it's truly something beautiful to look at.
Definitely. When we talk about 1-bit, just because it's 1-bit doesn't mean that there's a lack of detail. If anything, there's more detail than you'd expect. Like, everything is like really like you can definitely tell by looking at what it is. I like to compare it, and I've also seen it compared to like the similar to what like very early Mac computers look like when you play games, or like I'm gonna keep comparing to like old like Game Boy Color games, like the first Game Boy Color game, like that kind of, or not even Game Boy Color, like just regular Game Boy games before they had the color. So if you play like, or even like the first Pokemon's, like it looks like that, except instead of it being, a little person that you're moving around in little tiny pixel art, it's like a point and click menus with like your person on the side, and you can see their portrait and all their stats. And then you're taking play. The way you're playing is in the middle of the screen. There's point and click stuff where you have to like, oh, I want to go here. Let's go to the lighthouse. Let's go to your home. You have to like click on them, and it takes you to those places and shows you them. And it's amazingly beautiful. Don't get me wrong. But it is, as we're describing, 1-bit and entirely in black and white.
Yeah, like God, it's crazy what they can pull off with just barely, anything. It's reminiscent of like I've seen like, those, I've never played them, but those old like point and click adventure games, right, when computers were first coming out, which is what I think it's really going for, because that's the era that this game is set in. So that's when I say it works with the story, because it's literally it's supposed to feel like it's being played on those old computers. Even when you boot up this game, like you'll get sounds like old computer sounds, and that's kind of cool because it matches the visuals so well,
Well, and another cool thing about this is like a little Easter egg. If you go into the options, there's an option to zoom out, like take you and play it, because like right now you're playing on the computer, but if you zoom out, it'll show you like the actual CRT like monitor that you're playing on. So like it 100% was made to look like it was played on one of those computers, and like a lot of games try to emulate 80s games. Like they're like, oh, it's 80s games, but then like it still feels modern, and like you can still tell that you're playing a modern game. This game emulates an 80s game in a way that it actually straight up feels like you're playing a game from the 80s.
Yeah.
Like it has the same feel as like when you played Oregon Trail on your parents' computer.
Yeah. Like,
not that game's from the 80s. I don't even know if that's comparable, but that's what I'm going with.
Right? Fucking, let's just cover Oregon Trail. Fuck it. Like
that's a horror game.
You die enough in that one.
Yeah, honestly. Trauma. Right. But it's a very well done graphically. It's very well done. I went into it like looking at it like, oh, I'm not gonna have that fun of a time. But when I played it, like I actually got really invested. And it is similar to like text-based adventures where there is a lot of reading. There's no voice acting. Everything's text-based. You make a decision. You can see what happens in a text message, or like not a text message like on a phone, but like in a box, text box. That's the word I'm looking for. Holy shit. And like that may not sound appealing to a lot of people, but I feel like it also adds to the suspense and the horror of the game.
Yeah, I mean, this game straight up, like, it looks like Junji Ito decided to draw everything like out of his horror anime and manga on like an old ass computer. That's what this game like fucking looks like. If that's the visual you like if you're into that kind of stuff, like that grotesque like manga looking stuff, just put that into like the past and it just works really well for the visuals.
Definitely, I agree with that. Anything else to say about graphics?
Not too much. I was pleasantly surprised when I was coming into this, because I didn't know what to expect. Like just looking at some screenshots, I was like, I don't kind of know, but like everything in this game is like, oh man, there's some morbid ass creatures in this game. I will.
Yeah, like it's shockingly grotesque. Like for you don't expect to be like you get like one. It's 1-bit. Like I've seen it all, but like it really hits a different level. Like it's gross shit.
Yeah, it'll fuck your
body horror. That's the word I'm looking for. Yeah, definite body horror. If that's your vibe, it's 100% body horror. With that being said, let's move on to sounds and music.
Sounds and music.
So I did as much research as humanly possible to try to find out who produced the music in this game. I could not. so I'm assuming it's all made by the same guy. Unless proven wrong, I'm assuming it's all made by the same guy. From directly from their website, they said, it's a 1-bit or aesthetic game that includes a haunting chiptune soundtrack. Other reviews described it as 8-bit as well. I'm just gonna say that to me it sounds like really old 8-bit music that you got on like Pokemon, like essentially like Pokemon, except to make it horror.
Yeah, like I think it's supposed to be reminiscent of those times. I will say it's like really atmospheric kind of music. Like I mean, like sometimes like there are some pitches that I can't do in like those kind of games. Like I just can't, like, because they affect my hearing so much. But for the atmosphere it's trying to create with that kind of like 8-bit sound, it pulls it off really well.
Definitely, I agree completely. I think they really nailed it when they said that it was a haunting like chiptune. That's what it sounds atmospherically haunting, like morbid and like if you're in a cemetery, it sounds spooky, but like in the background. It was never too jarring, but there was action sequences in this game, and I say action very loosely. Like someone's pounding on your door at your apartment or whatever as your character, like, and the sound reflects that, and that was kind of jarring, which that makes sense because someone's literally pounding on your door. So I feel like they did a really good job with matching the energy of the soundtrack and the sounds to what you're doing in the game. It's very well done.
Yeah, like those classic loud ass movie sound effects really come into play in this game. Like that classic, like, someone's looking at something and then out of nowhere it just fucking bam, like that. Those are all over, and they always give you that fuck, right away.
Yeah, even with a text-based adventure, like the hits feel real.
Yeah, like it's crazy. Another random sound I like is the thud you always make when you hit someone in this game. I don't know why. It's a really, it's not even like that satisfying of a thud, but it's a really good thud.
Hey, if you like it, you like it. You don't have to explain it. It totally
Just that thack, like. I'm like, I don't know. I like it.
Feels good. Feels real good.
Right? But yeah, like, I don't know. The music in this game, like, it's eerie, it's atmospheric, it's haunting, and it's a really nice listen for most of it. It's a little bit short on some ends, but
yeah, I don't think they intend you to be in places for as long as like if you stay at one place, the track goes on for a minute, and then they're just like, okay, well, you were supposed to move, so we're just gonna restart the track.
Right. I do like how it's like random per mystery. I think the music is, and it switches per mystery you take on, so you'll constantly be getting like different music in this game, which is nice.
Yeah, definitely. I think the soundtrack is really cool. I'm a huge fan of it personally. As someone that likes music and sounds, I think that it really went well with the game. My biggest selling points on this game were the art. I didn't know about the soundtrack before I got into it, but when I got into it, I was pleasantly surprised about the soundtrack, just like you were pleasantly surprised about the art.
Yeah, like it has a lot going for it, honestly.
Definitely. With that being said, let's move into features and content.
Features and content.
So if you've been on the podcast before, you listen to the podcast before, you guys know that features and content is where we put basically everything else that doesn't fit into a specific box. So with that being said, I did a lot of research on this game. I played it through a couple times. There's a lot to say, and a lot of it is really complicated. So please bear with us as trying to explain how things work might be hard, but we'll try our best. One thing that you have to know about this game to understand why it's made the way that it's made, and one of the most important things that they plaster all over their website, every review talks about it, his Twitter talks about it, everywhere talks about it, is that this game is a love letter to 80s based games and 80s based text adventure games, H.P. Lovecraft, and the manga artist that Tom referenced. I don't know how to say it. Is it Junji? Is that his name?
I think it's Junji Ito, right?
Yeah, Junji Ito. So those are like the three things that this game is a love letter to. And if you only look at, if you know about H.P. Lovecraft, everyone does. You might not be familiar with Junji Ito, but he makes a lot of body horror manga and 80s based text adventure games, and it combines all three of those. And I think it did it pretty goddamn flawlessly. It feels exactly like a combination of those three things 100%.
Yeah, like it's crazy how well it pulls those off. Like I said before, in the art style, it feels like that Junji Ito kind of style in all of his manga and anime. Just like, and the feeling he puts off, it's all that into like that kind of adventure kind of game. Like it's classic point and click, and it really throws you in like one of those adventure games too. Like you're not gonna understand like 3/4 of the mechanics even with the tutorial it gives. Like it just
Oh yeah, the tutorial is fucking useless. I tried it. I was like, what the fuck did I just play?
yeah, it gives you I think the main like tutorial the thing did was teach me how to find weapons, and that was about it. Like fucking it's like, hey, you can search for weapons in battle. I'm like, okay, that's fucking useful, but otherwise, what does everything else on screen do? Oh, we're not gonna fucking tell you. We'll tell you how to equip items.
Figure the
Okay.
rest out yourself, and that's why I really do believe this is a trial by fire game. And it kind of, and not to throw it into the another part of the thing we talk about later, which is replayability. I think that really does up the replayability of the game, because you're like, what, when you die, you're like, wait, what the fuck just happened? And then you go back and you play it again, and the more you play it, the more you understand it. But basically,
I didn't even know what my health bar was at the fucking start of this game. Like
Yeah.
I just died from like an attack, and I was like, oh, there's my health bar, like way the fuck over there in a place you'd never suspect. Like,
Yeah, so there is some frustration accompanied with the learning curve of this game. It's incredibly steep, which sucks, but it also makes for replayability in my eyes as well. But the one thing that I do want to talk about that I thought was really cool in this game is the combat system. I mean, it's point and click, but essentially you have a bar of skills and then a combat bar, and you have to click the bar of skills to try to fill up that combat bar, and then you hit like run sequence or whatever, or hit combat or whatever it is, and then all your stuff plays out at once, and it tells you what happens in a little text box. And right after all that happens, it's the enemy's turn. So you have like a certain amount of space you have to fill up, and if you use it kind of becomes almost like a resource management game where you have to figure out what the best combo is and then just keep doing that. And in some cases, it might be better to like dodge, hit, dodge. Or, you never know based on your items or what you're using. But once you figure it out, you can kind of just grind that out until you find other combos, which sucks to figure out. But once you do, it's really rewarding. I also wanted to mention that it also makes you think a lot about your actions in this game. Like in some cases, it's best just to fucking run away. And I don't say that in a lot of games, but like there's certain encounters in this game where it's like, you will not win, like, and you don't know that the first time you play. Like you just think you can just die your way through it, and you can't.
right.
So that was my feelings on combat. It was really interesting.
Yeah, combat at first, like it's confusing. Like, the tutorial will basically teach you, like I said, it'll teach you how to like find weapons and like equip them and attack with them. But like, it also doesn't get into like small intricacies. Like, let's see, there's like ones that let you charge and get more accuracy for your attacks too. It doesn't fucking explain that. Like, it doesn't explain half of what your buttons do. Like, some are just like, oh, C, like there's just an I, and you don't understand that tells you the weaknesses of your enemies and stuff. Or let's see, I think there's like a heart one you can use to like do more damage, but you can only use that at certain times. There's so many confusing like little tidbits, but filling up that bar is basically what it comes down to, and the way you're gonna strategically use your attacks. It doesn't have to be in any specific order, but like, like there's also spells in this game that can boost like attacks and do things, but like, god, that's a whole entire another part of just
Yeah. Yeah, I was just about to say, man. So like, I think what we're trying to say is it's an incredibly complicated game to learn. The learning curve is incredibly steep, but once you learn it, you understand it. Like you have like 3 slots. The first one's for your main weapon. The other 2 are for things that affect combat. Literally, that's how easy it is. But they never tell you that.
right.
And then there's spells, and spells can affect your sanity. And if your sanity goes below a certain amount, you lose the game or like bad things happen to you. But these are things that they never tell you about that you just have to play through and figure out, which I think adds to the overall like atmosphere of the game. To some people, it's going to be incredibly frustrating. Like I cannot tell you how many times playing this game I went, "What the fuck just happened?"
Right? Yeah.
But once you get through it, you're like, oh, okay, and it's like an aha moment. It's brilliantly done, with the fact that it pisses you off and makes you learn, and has a really steep fucking curve to learn by.
Yeah, like, God. Okay, just like this doesn't even involve combat, but like it kind of does because like in like the first mission of the game, and this is like spoilers kind of ahead, but it gives you like a book, right? But it's like the diary. But you don't understand that you have to actually equip that to like your inventory, and from that you can see pictures in that relates to finishing a quest, which relates to combat because it makes the mission way easier. The game does zero things to explain in the tutorial mission about equipping things and looking at them. Like it's
It is, yeah, it's very, like I said, the learning curve is incredibly steep.
Yeah.
At the end
It's
of the
because
day,
it teaches you nothing. It just throws you straight in and is like, here you go, figure this shit out. Like, okay.
or die.
Like, fuck.
So another thing I do want to cover is that there is 5 playable characters in this game, each with their own different stats and sometimes different starting items. So like your stats affect how you play the game and what encounters you get, what happens, what your personal storyline is like. But combat is also based on stats. So like, and so are encounters. So like you roll up to an encounter, like you say you want to go and walk into a room. Well, if you walk into the room, you get a text box that says 4 options. You can choose one of those 4 options, and usually it'll say like, if you click this option, it goes off your strength. If you click this option, it goes off your dexterity or whatever. And that's where your stats come in. And I like to relate it back to it feels almost like a tabletop when you get to like encounters and stuff. And even combat itself kind of feels like a tabletop. Like I'm filling up this game with attacks and I got to roll to see if I hit kind of vibe, but you don't actually roll. You just fill it up and see what happens, you know?
Yep. Well,
So
percentage based, so kind of like rolling just based on percentage. So it's more like coin flips.
Yeah.
Loaded. But yeah.
100%. I really like to think of it like a tabletop. I feel like that makes it a lot easier.
Yeah.
But that's, it's point and click, so I'm not surprised.
Right. It's a classic RPG, so it's supposed to have that feeling, like
definitely. And then I think that another big part of the game is there's a lot of like puzzles, and a lot of the time puzzles can only be solved by like searching for things nonstop. So like you got to look everywhere in this game. Like you walk into a room and you're like, I got to click everything and see if I can find anything in this room to help me for later.
Yeah, like God, the puzzles are confusing as hell in this game. Like even in the first one, like the first fucking one, I died like twice through my first playthrough because it's like I didn't figure out you had to draw a fucking chalk symbol different.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Like that's like your first puzzle, and let me tell you, the game, like I said, it doesn't even explain that there's fucking puzzles in this game. It just expects you to think that there's puzzles. It's like, here you go, figure this shit out. There's 4 possible endings just based on random puzzles that were either in that you just skipped right past because you didn't think it was a puzzle. Like, oh, great. Why is this so confusing?
Tom, I get the vibe you didn't love this game.
No, dude, the thing is, I really like this game. I just like I'm baffled by some elements of this game. Like
yeah, I totally get that. It's very confusing, to say the least. But I think that it's super unique in the fact that it ties all these elements together pretty flawlessly. And once you get the hang of it, then it gets easier. It's just you have to work so hard to get the hang of it.
Right. It's it's very punishing in that regard. Like it makes you work, and it makes you definitely feel like every mistake was yours because you didn't exactly know what to kind of do with a puzzle or in combat or like just with certain parts of this game. But once you figure it out, it's a very rewarding experience at the same time.
Yeah, I think that 100% describes it for most of the game. I was gonna say something else. I totally forgot. Oh, when you said that all your mistakes are punishable and stuff, and it's all yours. I've actually seen a lot of reviews classify this game as a roguelite just because of that. Like, just because like there is no real tutorial. It's just you're gonna fuck up and die and have to try again. And like,
Right.
so therefore, people have added the tag of roguelite. It's never been exclusively dubbed roguelite. People just keep adding it because they're like, I keep having to replay because I die.
I would almost classify this more of a rogue than a roguelite because if you die, you don't get to restart. Even your fucking saves, it's like, nah, you have to start all the way over. Like, fuck, dude. It gets punishing when you die in this game. Like, it's like, oh, you died? Sorry, start a new story. Like, fuck,
It
okay.
almost feels, and I don't know if this is on purpose or not because I didn't make the game, but it almost feels like the game wants you to lose, and it wants you to lose in a way that's frustrating and feels like bad because it the whole thing, one of the things it ties to is H.P. Lovecraft and eldritch horrors and monsters, and they have a very doom feeling to them in the stories. So I feel like it kind of ties into all of that, like the frustration of trying and still failing and having to start all over again, but you can't do anything to stop it. Feels very H.P. Lovecrafty, and I like that. I related to that later. Not during. I was pissed when it happened, but like after you step back, you're like, that's exactly what it was going for.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's frustrating, but you understand why. Like, I don't
Yeah.
know.
Later. It's always later, not in the moment. In the moment, it's fucking makes you pissed off.
Mm-hmm.
At
Yeah.
least that's what it did to me.
No, I definitely got that feeling as well. So definitely justified.
Um, there's also there's items, spells, and allies. Honestly, items and spells are the only things that really do anything. I didn't fully understand allies that much. Even
So allies, did you ever click on them in your inventory when you
yeah,
had
they
them?
do like one thing each, right? I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure.
So yeah, they give you like a boost actually on a lot of your skills too. Like some of them will give you like a +2 to strength or like to your charisma or something. Some of
Mhm.
them like yeah will do certain things or like help you out on certain mysteries, but like it doesn't feel like they do anything if that makes sense. You know, it feels like
Yeah.
they should do more. Like you can't even like attack with them. So like it's like, you know, if in like JRPG, you know, style, when you get a new character, you can usually use them in like combat or something. But there's no use for allies in combat, which I thought was weird in this game.
Yeah, it's like it's a weird take on it. But like items and spells are super important. And
Hmm.
with that, we talked about resource management. So like the way that I like to think of this as a resource management game because like you only get 4 item slots, and also items and spells and money in this game are incredibly hard to come by. So like even when you do get those things, you have to use them so sparingly.
Yeah. Like it's very resource heavy, but like that even relates to a lot of horror games in general. Like you think
Yeah.
Silent Hill kind of games, like it's all resource management, like, and that makes sense, you know, in horror games. Just it's always been there, it always will be there, but it makes sense in this game.
Yeah, it really adds to the spookiness and the unnerving factor that you're just like, shit, but if I use this here, what happens if I need it later? Because like we said, one wrong move and you're fucking done. You know, in this game, it's very punishing.
Right? Yeah, and trust me, you'll never even know which items you'll need. Like I think one was like, oh, um, it'll just pop up like most of the time on the bottom with 2 options. It's like, oh, you can do this, but if you have a specific item, you can do the other option. But like, since everything is randomized in this game, you never know which one you'll need. Sometimes you'll need a flashlight. Sometimes you'll need like a fucking tuna can opener. Who the hell knows what the fuck you need in this game? But you know, if you feel like you need it, like you can buy it from a store or something. But you get the feeling you just carry around this stuff for the random chance that you'll
You're gonna have
actually
to
need.
use it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like it kind of like with the randomness of this game, it makes you just realize you never know what the hell you're gonna need, and that works in its favor and not in its favor. You know?
You never know what's gonna come through that door. Pawn
Yeah.
Stars music plays.
Oh my fucking god.
I don't know the Pawn Stars. Is it like I don't know.
I don't know. I just
Please sue us, Pawn Stars. We could
I
use the
know.
clout.
Yeah. Y'all just
Um,
like are like, sorry, best I can do is rip you the fuck off. Like
this game kind of feels like that a lot of the time, where you're just like, I got this baseball bat. Can I use it? And the game's like, it's like in Pokemon where it's like Professor Oak. There's a time and place for everything.
basically like, yeah.
Yeah, it's with all of that being said, it still is a really good game to play.
Like trust me, we're picking on some things, but that's because this game is just punishing in the exact way that an 80s adventure game is punishing. So it fits the genre it's going for absolutely perfect. Is it frustrating? Yes. Is it supposed to be frustrating? Yes. Like
we think we have never talked to anyone about this. We're just pretty sure it's supposed to be
right?
frustrating.
Man, maybe if we get someone who's like in that age, they're gonna just breeze right through this game and be like, I don't know what your guys' problem is, you know?
This is
Like
a really easy game. Yeah, we're just fucking bad at it.
Right?
I mean, honestly, maybe. I think another interesting thing that I liked about this game is there's this we keep talking about how there's all these menus and all these things, you know, slots and bars and stuff. But one of the most interesting bars that I didn't even know existed is called the Doom Bar.
Yeah, doesn't explain that either.
It doesn't explain that at all. There's just this bar and it just says like Doom or something on it, and you're like, what the fuck? And occasionally it'll go up and you're like, why is that going up? And then if it gets to the end of the bar, you lose.
Yeah,
and,
dead.
And I found out later that that bar essentially is like if you fail something, if something bad happens to you, if you lose sanity, if you fuck an encounter up, that bar will slowly fill up. And the bar represents how much control the Eldritch God or whatever you're trying to find and vanquish has over your town. And at the end of it, you fucked up enough for the Eldritch God to completely decimate your town. And it doesn't explain that at all, but like it's a cool factor that I wish they would just tell you about.
Right? My god, okay, I had to restart like my second time playing this game twice because literally I got fucked by doom bars and items. You know how I said this game is random, like everything it gives to you random every time you play is the first time it did, every spell use I used would cause the doom bar to go up. And then the next one, every time I used a weapon, the doom bar would go up. So I couldn't make it through 2 cases without fucking just like literally the whole entire town blowing up. So I'm like, okay, you know what? Fucking restart until it's actually a manageable doom bar because
well, at that point, and that's what I talked about earlier, that it kind of feels like sometimes you have to just run away from things. Like, and that would have been one of those cases where you literally would have to run away the whole game or do it unit and restart.
Yeah,
which
like
no shame in running away. Like I could run in a whole game with this with running away and not feel bored, to be honest.
Right, yeah.
Maybe
Luckily,
that's just me.
Luckily, there's like an instant restart button in this game, and sometimes, like I said, I needed it for that. You just hit Q, and it like restarts the entire game, and you're like, okay, start from scratch.
Thank God. And like there's I feel like that covers most of the game, other than just like the honest, like you have to see it. You just like you don't have to unless you're super interested. Go buy the game. Use the code in our fucking show notes. It helps the show. Thank you. I'm unemployed. I could use it. But unless you're super interested by the game, just Google World of Horror and click images and just look at some of the images, because I feel like the biggest draw to this game is the art style and the body horror. It is fucking messed up, bro.
Yeah, right now we're watching like the Scissor Woman, and like if you guys are watching with us, like it's like the first storyline you go through, like it's the one it recommends you do anyway. But yeah, she looks fucked up. There was a jump scare in this one that got me immediately. Like I just like leaned into the fucking screen like a goddamn doofus because I didn't know what to do. I was just
I know
all
that
over.
one.
And then like, dude, I swear to God, even if I'm telling you that the jump scare where it is, you're still gonna get scared as shit by that thing. Like,
It does a really good job with the horror aesthetic. And the art in it is immaculate. I don't like horror at all. I'm a big wussy. But it does a really good job with the body horror. It's disgusting.
Right.
And along the same lines, there's also some really cute stuff in the game as well. We'll get into that when I talk about my favorite thing. But it's not all icky stuff. There's one or two cute things.
Right. Yeah. You need that splash of comedy relief, in there.
Definitely. And then I think another part of this that's just really interesting, at least that I thought was interesting, is that the creator that made this game, he did this game fully by himself, part time, while being a dentist full time.
Damn.
So like all of this was made as like a fashion project that he did on the side for himself, and it ended up being a really popular game. And there was also this really long period between when the game came out in early access, which is 2020, and then in like he just never did anything with it. So everyone started to speculate that the man who made it was either dead, which was a huge popular like people kept posting about it on message boards and stuff, that he was dead, or the project had been abandoned. But then he began tweeting about it again in 2021, promising updates, and then it looked like there has been some updates, and also that he's working on getting it onto Mac right now as well. So like there's specific updates that are happening, but he just doesn't tweet about it that much. But I just thought it was really it felt very fitting that everyone thought he had died.
Yeah. Like, that's pretty crazy that, like, you just don't continue on something for so long that people think you're literally dead. Like,
But it was like 2 years. Like that's, I don't know. And you're working on it by yourself part time like that. That feels pretty. That feels like a jump to conclusions to be like he's dead.
I will say that this game, I feel even more scared that this game was made by a dentist, just because one, I kind of have like an innate fear of the dentist. But I'm just saying, could you imagine going to your dentist and he made this game? That dentist is now even more horrifying. I'm just saying, like, holy fuck.
I am changing dentists. I'm never going to that person again. That's horrifying. Dude. Could you imagine what happens when he puts you under? Like if you get like your wisdom teeth out, I don't want to know.
Yeah, like, fuck, dude. Like, I don't know why. That just, like, a dentist making a horror game that, like this, just creeps me out so much more, and I don't know why. It's just
not just a dentist, or not just a horror game, a body horror game,
Yeah.
and a dentist. Like
Yeah.
creepy shit to do with the human body, and that's your fucking dentist.
Right? Yeah, like, I'm gonna take a hard pass on you putting me under, bro. Like,
no offense, man, but if you draw shit like this, I don't want you around my teeth.
yeah, I was gonna say, like, half my teeth are gonna be gone, and you're gonna be wearing the craziest ass mask when I wake up. Like,
No shade to that dude. I'm sure he's a completely normal dentist. Please don't sue
Right?
us.
yeah, like, yeah, I'm sure you definitely don't think about this stuff when you're pulling out people's teeth at all. Like,
I sure hope not. I think that sums up the most of the game for me on content. How about you?
yeah, I mean, like, honestly, we covered a lot of the bases of content. Like I said, there's a lot of confusing parts in this game that you're not gonna realize until you really get into it. Like, I think we've actually, like, given a more in-depth tutorial than this game will give tutorial-wise. So, like, we've covered a lot of things that the game doesn't even mention. So
Yeah. Hire us to do your game intros. Thanks.
right.
Well, let's move on to movement and controls.
Movement and controls.
I think this is going to be the easiest section. It's point and click and text adventure. So you click on something and then you read the text to see what happens, or you can watch. And sometimes it shows it on the screen, but most of the time you're going to be reading.
Right, yeah. I like a lot of the kind of text adventure in this game though, because like it gives you like, it's like one of those imagination games. Yeah, it gives you the visual to kind of set the scene, but really your imagination will take over in the point and click. And I think that's really reminiscent of 80s games, like that point and click kind of adventure style. Like some of those games were actually, just text based, like 100%. So you had to completely use it, but like the small visuals it does give with that control feeling works out.
There is I looked it up. There's a definite amount of fan base still for text-based games. They're still very popular. Apparently, there's like whole websites for them. So I guess
I
I
could
didn't know
see it.
that until I
Yeah.
was looking at this. So some people still like to play them, but I think that this one kind of captures the text-based feel very well. It's very theater of the mindy. Like you know, it gives you, like Tom said, yeah, an image or like a small, like, you know, looping thing, and then like text, and you read it, and it's more your imagination, and I think that allows it to be scarier.
Yeah, like it's really all about how scary your mind can interpret writing in this game, and the images really go a long way to help your mind perceive like some scary ass images. But like, yeah, like it doesn't need a lot of like movement or controls. Like, God, sometimes you feel scared just clicking on things in this game. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
you ever get scared to make a decision in this game on which way to go, and you're looking at your fingers to click and it won't make that clicking decision. Like, that's really crazy that a control can feel like that in this game. But I
yeah,
don't know.
especially because like you know, it's just clicking, bro, whatever. But like it makes you very unnerved and nervous at the
Yeah.
same time. It's like one of the perfect examples of that is exactly what we're watching on screen right now. Wait for a second there. There's you go back to your apartment in between encounters, and you can use that's where you can use it to like rest, watch TV, change your clothes, shower, and like all that, like, you know, heals your character, brings your stats back up, and then choose where you're going next. But you can also like look through the peephole in your apartment,
Oh
and when
God.
you do that, sometimes there's like a creepy neighbor like looking back at you, like or like, you know,
Yeah.
like, and that's like a spoiler because like that happens sometimes. But like that's what I feel like that's a prime example of what we're talking about, where like sometimes you just don't want to click things because like it gets really weird and like really uncomfortable very fast.
Yeah, this game is very unnerving in that sense. You know, it could be nothing through that peephole, but you could just see a giant eyeball staring right back at you. Like, fuck.
Yeah, it's fucking scary, dude. It
Yeah.
got me a couple times, not gonna lie.
Right. Yeah.
All right, well, let's move into closing thoughts.
Closing thoughts.
I think one of the first things we should always cover with closing thoughts is replayability. We always cover this one, and I think I stated it earlier, but in my mind, this game is incredibly replayable, and not just incredibly replayable. It feels like it has a like an emphasis on it, because like you're gonna lose, you're gonna die,
Yeah.
and you're gonna replay it. At least
Mhm.
I would never have given this game up in one playthrough personally. I when I died the first time, I was like, what the fuck, and played it immediately again.
Right. Yeah. Like, I don't know. I absolutely love the replayability in this game, mostly because, you know, like I said, there's a lot of random elements in this game, so everything changes from mysteries you're working on to let's see, like combat encounters to whatever encounters like in this game. Everywhere you go is going to be different. Whatever street you walk down downtown is going to be different. Like, and that's really cool. I also really like that you can custom make like some of these things. Like, there's a custom option in like the menu when you're starting like a new thing, and that in of itself is really cool that you can make like ones almost yourself that like guide where you want to go in the story, and that itself is like really cool just to fuck around with the options. Like, when
Definitely.
it's like World of Horror, it feels like a true world. Like, this isn't like a straightforward game. It takes place like around this town, and it feels like there's all these different events going around to cohesively make a story that you can't even grasp one time playing this game. And that's really cool and hard to pull off.
Especially in a fucking 1-bit text adventure game. Like, that's 100% what it feels. It feels like a world of horror. Like, oh my god, that's the name of the game.
Holy shit.
Holy shit, how'd they do that? How'd they do that? When they say the name of the game, in the name of the game.
Right.
But no, it's definitely, yeah, I think it's incredibly replayable for sure.
It's 100% one of the most replayable games I think we've talked about. Like, there's a lot of ones that add in a random sense of like level base and changing up levels, but this game like almost changes like your cohesive, like, you know, the story just based around every playthrough you go to, which is really cool and something that we haven't even gotten to in replayability of other games before.
Some of the encounters are just ridiculous. This is totally random, but we're watching this is a live podcast. You can always watch us. But we're watching the game right now, and one of the encounters it was just called Labyrinth, and you had two options at the bottom of the screen. One was get lost, and the other said get lost, and then in brackets it said you needed a map.
Yeah, like fuck, dude.
So my options were get lost.
Right? Yeah. Like I said, when
that's
you buy
perfect.
items in this game and you don't know what you need a map.
Yeah,
Sorry.
that's why that's perfect. That's a description of this entire game. That's what it feels like a lot of the time. But I feel like when you do get it right, you're like, oh my god, yes.
Right? Yeah. Never
Feels good.
fucking know what you're gonna need.
What was the fun factor for you, Tom?
I give this game like probably a nice 7.5, maybe pushing 8, but I feel like it's right in that 7.5 range for me. I got to be in the right mood to play this game for sure. Like, this is a perfect time of year to be playing this game, honestly. Like, right in that spooky kind of season. Like, yeah.
Definitely. I think I agree 100% with what you said. It's like 7.5 for me too. Perfect time of year to play the game. It's really fun. If you're wondering, chat, you can definitely, I call it chat because, sorry, stream. It's really fun to stream. Have your chat help you pick decisions, talk about it with them, have people take on certain roles, make predictions. It makes it a lot more fun. And it's also, it doesn't, like I feel like in a world where a lot of our games are like, story games are quick time event driven, and what I mean by that is you're playing a game like when you played like The Last of Us or Man of Medan or House of Ashes, like stuff like that. There's moments where you have to make a decision really fast. There's a timer and you have to do it. In this game you can just like chill and be like, should I do this, should I not do this? So it kind of makes it perfect to play with other people.
Right? Yeah, that is definitely true.
But yeah, I think that was a huge part of the fun factor for me was streaming it. I have played it solo too, but I feel like I had more fun with other people.
Right. I feel like you could get away with this game, like literally, even if you were streaming it and didn't have video. Like this would be like one of those great games, like as like a classroom like teacher atmosphere, and you just like are reading like a book, right? And you give like kids a certain decision, and you know that's where it goes. Like it's that adventure book style where it's like you run into like a certain thing. It's like what's your decision gonna do, and what's it gonna lead to?
100%. Yeah, I fully agree with that as well. With fun factor, we always talk about like rage factor too. Did you have a rage factor this one, Tom?
It's I don't know. I didn't really find anything like rage worthy other than not being able to understand some things and the fact that it's a very unforgiving death system. Like the fact that the save system really doesn't matter if you fucking die in this game. Like that's a bit frustrating, like having to start from square one. But, it's got that rogue kind of element, so it's something I expect. So I'd probably give it about 5, 6, because I kind of knew what to go into it. It's more frustrating just to not understand some things. It could do a better job in tutorial basis of explaining some things that are going on.
Agreed. Yeah, I think that I would put it around like a 7 for me. There was parts on it where I was just like, what the fuck am I supposed to be doing? And I just did not understand. So
Yeah.
I have to give it dues where it needs dues, and then it made me kind of ragey sometimes. With that being said, it still was a lot of fun.
Yeah, like it's confusing. Like it's in a sense like your character is as much confused as you are, because it's like, fuck, what the hell is going on? And you're like, fuck, what the hell is going on? Like
Yeah, definitely. And it doesn't ever get easier to understand until like a couple playthroughs.
yeah, like it's gonna take you a few tries to get really into what it is going on.
Yeah. Did you have a favorite part and a least favorite part?
My favorite part is every time you go to an item shop, there's just a doggo there. Like, fucking.
That was gonna be mine too. I actually have it say where it is in the video right here. This is what the dog looks like. If anyone's wondering if it loads, it's
Right.
What is a Shibu? How do you say that? Fuck.
Yeah, he's that Japanese kind of dog. I think it's like the Shibu or whatever. But yeah, it's so great every time you just go to an item shop and you get to see his dumb little awesome face. Like it just makes my day every
Yeah.
single time. It
It's like,
doesn't
why
matter.
is this dog selling things? Like, that makes no sense, but it's adorable. And also, you can get that dog as a companion.
Yeah, like it's kind of just great. Like, oh my god, how does like does he own the place or does he like pay rent? Like, I want his own like storyline. Like, give me a mystery that revolves around this dog and how he got this shop. Like,
Side story. Yeah, that's what I said with like there's most stuff in this game is grotesque and body horror and bad, but there is some funny stuff and like that's the notable one I can think of and that I love the most is there's a dog in a store, you know?
yeah, like he's just straight up just sitting there on the counter, like, what can I get for you today? Like, fuck it. Like,
And this jaw just so cute and lifelike in one bit somehow.
right.
But definitely and then did you have a least favorite part of the game?
Um, like I had pointed out before, just not being able to understand certain things. Like I could just do a better job explaining things through like tutorial processes. Like it should have like this game should have like another quest like it does like in like kind of the main menu of just tutorial. Like it should go through like a few different things that this game is going to throw at you and make sure you kind of understand those things, and then I feel like everybody would have a lot better times on their first few playthroughs of this game.
Yeah, and again, I feel like I agree with you that my least favorite thing was that the learning curve is so hard.
Hmm.
Like it's definitely trial by fire for sure. But I also don't know if that was intended, and I feel like it might have been. Again, there's no like formal interviews with the dude that made this. There's not a lot of times where he's talked about the process. So like we don't know if that's intended or not. There's a lot of mystery behind it, and I feel like if I had to go out on a limb, I think that it was intended. I think that it was supposed to be that difficult and frustrating because it adds to the atmosphere. So if it was, awesome, because that's what it feels like. But if not,
Right.
definitely add the tutorials.
Right. Yeah, I feel that. It's like, and I get that, we can go for that, but maybe just like explain like a couple things. Like the fact that you don't explain a doom meter at all, which is an instant death meter, like not just don't say, "Hey, watch out for this." Like
I mean, in the Doom meter's defense, it's called a Doom meter.
right? Yeah, I get I should know what it kind of does. Like I should expect some impending doom, but like it's just so it feels so anticlimactic just to die from a meter. Like fucking I died by cash cab, like fuck.
No, I get what you're saying. I completely agree with you on that aspect. That there should, if it was not intended, there should be more tutorials. But we won't know that until they talk about it more. And this so far they haven't talked about it. So
Right, yeah. I'm gonna have to get a dentist appointment with this guy just to
oh
work
my
his
god,
brain, like fucking
he's gonna
so-
pick yours, dude.
yeah, no shit. Yeah, oh my god.
Is there any games that it reminds you of?
Um God, I don't really have like a specific one to kind of, base this on, I'd give it to any of those classic 80s adventure kind of uh point and click kind of games, like
As you can
very
tell,
choose your own adventure. It's
yeah, this is
just
not our forte. We're not very well versed in this genre of game.
no, yeah, just any of those kind of games. It's a pick your own adventure book as a game.
Yeah,
Like it's
definitely.
I
I
don't know. I enjoyed it.
I'd relate it to Bjorkberg, but that might just because I'm related to Bjorkberg right now. For everyone who doesn't know, it's a tabletop game.
It's a great game. It's so much
awesome.
fun.
But yeah, it felt very similar. Case the world's ending, you're trying to stop it. Everything is disgusting. That's it. Like, and then you gotta figure out how you stop it. And pretty much, and at the end of it, did anything you do really matter? Did your items really matter? Did any of your choices matter? Probably not. You still die, and that's
Yeah.
Bjorkberg too. So.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, it's I think that it's a really good game. Then how much did you recommend the game, Tom?
I would give this like probably a solid 7 to 8 recommendation, I give it higher if this is like your style of game. Like if you want to play like a playable Junji Ito Lovecraft experience, then I think this game is for you. If you're into that style of, point and click adventure games, this game is for you. But I think this game is really going to take a certain person most of the time. I don't know. I think certain people will enjoy this game, certain people might not, but I think it's worth that try no matter what.
Definitely. I think that it's exactly what you said. A lot of people are going to enjoy it. If they like body horror, they like H.P. Lovecraft, they like tabletops, point and click, any of that kind of stuff, this is going to be your game. You should definitely play it, especially right now because it's spooky season. And for
Right.
everyone else, it could be a fun game to watch someone else play, or it could be a fun game to play with other people, like where you all make choices together at like a party situation. Could be super fun. But other than that, I think a lot of people will be more frustrated by this game than like it. Like you said, it takes a certain person to like this game.
Yeah, like if you're into Call of Duty, this is not going to be the game for you. But if you're into Call of Duty, why are you listening to this podcast?
Holy shit, get him. Wow. Please don't unfollow us if you're into Call of Duty. Okay.
Right. I'm just saying, I feel like most people that play that aren't listening to an indie game podcast is all I'm saying,
They could be multi-dimensional people, Tom. God.
Right.
Give them a chance. Maybe they're trying. Yeah. But yeah, I agree. I would recommend it to anybody who likes horror, anybody who likes H.P. Lovecraft, Ito, that kind of stuff. Definitely your game. Check it out, especially during spooky season. It's currently available on PC, Switch, and PS4. I don't know if that's still relevant. That's what it said on their website. So could be wrong. No idea. But it's for sure on Steam because I played it off of Steam. So check it out there.
Yeah.
Next week, we're not sure what we're going to talk about because we're great at podcasting.
Mm-hmm.
We haven't chosen, but we're going to try to stick with spooky games for the rest of October just to keep the vibe up. With that being said, Tom, where can they find you if you want to be found?
You can find me, Tom Dykers Tattoos, and Ticking Time Tom on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook. Any of those sites, feel free to message me for tattoo-related ideas and indie game-related stuff. If you want us to cover anything specific, or you just even want to just talk about stuff like that, I'm always down. So.
Awesome. And I'm Sean as a Ginger. You can find me on Twitch mostly, TikTok, and YouTube. Every single platform under the same name, Sean as a Ginger, SEAN. I stream every Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday at 8 to 9-ish is usually my start time over on Twitch. And I'm moving into YouTube and TikTok for live streaming as well. And honestly, since I am currently unemployed, literally just go follow me on there. It would help me more than you could imagine. As always, guys, you can find all our socials in the show notes description. And if you do want to support the podcast by purchasing the game, there will be a link in the show notes. We do get a kickback from that. It's a couple cents, but it does help us keep the lights on, as it were. With that being said, if you're a developer that wants to talk to us about your indie game, you can send us an email to blockbrospodcast@gmail.com. Again, that's blockbrospodcast@gmail.com. If you have a specific game you want us to talk about, you can also send us an email at the same email. Don't forget to rate us on whatever you're listening to us on. Like, it really helps more than it pushes us out to a wider audience. I think that you can rate us on Apple and Spotify. And if you're not following us on Spotify, please make sure to do so. Block Bros Podcast streams live every Tuesday evening around 10:30 to Facebook, Twitch, and YouTube. The opening music is 8-Bit Fun by the Heatley Bros, and Block Bros Podcast is a Lost Cause Media production. Until next week, guys, we'll catch you.
Bye.
Bye.
Lost Cause Media.